beautiful. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. You feeling better today?
Much better. I only had like a 3 or 4 day downtime.
Yeah, so many people were sick over the holidays. It's just horrible. I know a lot of people. Hello, everyone, for hopping on here. Thank you so much for joining. And we're going to chat all about the BI-Blade today. And the reason why I have Angela on here, and I'm not sure how to get rid of these comments on turn off monitor, turn off request, turn off questions. Okay, so I'm going to turn off commenting. And if you guys want to ask a question, please put it in the DM. And I have this open and I can answer your questions while we do this. I'm so excited to have Angela here. Angela is a friend and colleague from the SPCP, and she is a pioneer in her own right. She brought machine method.
I've not invented anything, but sure, go on.
Brought stuff to the industry when there wasn't anybody teaching it. So you got to give yourself a little credit there, ma'am. So you've been tattooing for how many years now?
A lot of them. You see all this gray hair coming in? I started tattooing in 1997. Yeah.
Most people weren't even born then.
I know. It's so horrible.
You started on machine.
I did. I started on coil machines.
And then you ended up, when did you transition over to microblading?
When everyone else did. So when it became really popular here and everybody was doing it, and like everyone else, I'm like, I'm not dragging needles in the skin. This is crazy. And then all of a sudden we all started, people were doing it, and people were flying. You had to fly to Serbia to go take these classes, right? And and I was watching everybody do it and learning from them, and you and a bunch of other people. And so I got into it because I was like, well, if this is going to be the new thing, and it's a love-hate relationship. I love it. I hate it. It's gotten better. It's got its place. So
yeah, it definitely has its place in the industry. I mean, back before nano brows and Mary really got popular with nano brows, the blades were the way to get the hair strokes in, because we just didn't have the skills or the knowledge or the equipment or the technology to be able to do what we do today. Like today, to watch how the industry has evolved over the last 10 years is
even the last 5 years has been mind-blowing. And honestly, I believe it's because people moved away from take this thing and that thing and that thing and do it exactly like this. And everybody was learning and teaching that way. And now people are like, but why? How can we do it that way? Why is this better than that way? And suddenly people started asking like technical questions and science questions, and now it's all come together, and literally it's like we just invented electricity, and next thing you know, we're flying to the moon. It's been amazing to see what people are doing.
Yeah, it's been really incredible to watch the innovations. And over the years of doing this craft myself, I mean, I started with Nouveau Contour. I was a machine girl forever and ever, and I kept hearing, you can't do strokes, you can't do strokes, and the only way to do it was with a microblade. So that's when I flew to Hawaii and trained in 2010 with microblading. And then I continued to just learn as much as I could from all the pioneers that were doing it back then. And it was pretty much a dead horse. There was really not a lot of people that were doing it, and it wasn't being done well. So it's nice to now see that the evolution has changed enough and we're getting incredible results. I know my microblading is banging. It's like, 3 years and they still look beautiful, and you can still see some, some lines. They're not as completely crisp as, they were originally in the first year, but after 3 years, even nano lines start to blur. So I like them, and I like the lightweightness. I like having the diversity with my tool. I find that I can, work better. I have more versatility, and I really appreciate that with the machine. You have to continually be so slow and steady, and I find
there's no room for error. there, because if they move, if they
Yeah,
do one of these, you're in big trouble. I mean, that'll still happen with the microblade, but because it's not running at the same time, and you know, one of the things that made it so difficult is that we could use really thin needles with a single needle, with a nice long taper, a single needle, a small diameter. And so it's like, well, shit, the microblades that we were using when we first started were like 0.25 millimeters. And then for a while, I was having my own blades made for myself, and I sold them, as well. But they were really just for me, and I was making them at 0.18, and that was the smallest you can go.
right.
And yours, I'm super excited to see, are 0.15, which is so incredibly fine and thin, and I absolutely love it, because a 0.25 now seems like a freaking tree trunk
I
to
know.
drag through someone's skin, and that's why we were seeing the shit results that we were seeing.
Yeah. But even the even the 0.25 that I've made, it still is not as thick.
Is
That's the 0.25, but they're still not as thick as the chunky old
I
0.25s. This is a
thought this one,
0.5.
I thought this one was a 0.18.
No, this is a 0.25, and this one is a 15.
Well, shit,
So
you tricked me, because I was using this thinking it was a 0.18, and I mean, the lines are amazingly fine and sharp. So, all right, I take that back. It can be done.
it can be done when you have the right tools. Now, the reason why, and I have 3 blades in this series. So for those of you that are new, that don't know anything about this blade came out of my need as an artist for a better tool. So I used a lot of curved needles, a lot of U blades, and I used a lot of curves, and I used a lot of flats. And I just kind of was like, why can't we have something that combines it? Why can't we have a combined blade? Like, why doesn't somebody do this? And I remember talking to Gaston a zillion years ago, when I was trying to find my manufacturers, and he wouldn't go near it because it was a microblade, and he thought it was foolish. And I was like, okay. So then I had to go and search, and finding my manufacturer, that was the biggest, because there's a lot to get through, like a lot of safety, a lot of, you got to make sure that they've got a clean record, that they know what the industry is, they're doing it. And so finding the manufacturer to do this, that was the biggest deal. And then trying to build it was another, process. And so this has been a labor of love that has taken about 10 years for me to bring to market. Just trying to find the right avenues to go to in order to make it. So in the series, as you well know, we have the first and only ever textured microblade in the history of microblading.
Why were they not textured before? Because the thing is, right, if you're a microblader, then you have two choices. You can either dip too much and get pigment everywhere and you can't see your strokes, or you dip too little and you get nothing in, and then you've made a pass without any kind of payout. And I try to get as much pigment in as possible in a single pass, because you don't want to have to do it again. You don't want to have to go back in and try to rub it in. And so why were we not texturing the needles? Like, it just doesn't make sense that they weren't textured, because that texture is going to hold that tiny little bit. So you have the right amount to see your strokes, and you've got the right amount to implant some. Freaking genius, Shauna.
And it
Because
will,
why isn't anybody else doing it?
I, I think because the people that are making blades are not the artists that are using them.
No, of course,
I
yeah, of
think
course not. Yeah.
difference. And a lot of times what people have done in the past is that they've just gone and they used whatever the manufacturer's needles were, and they just put their name on them. Nobody has actually, I don't know anybody outside of Tina Davies that is actually, and I don't even know if Tina Davies blades, she actually, like, if they were already pre-made blades that she just adds to her tools, or if she actually designed and created the blades themselves. I'm not too sure, but those are the only ones that I really can see that are different in comparison to what's out there today.
Yeah, and even when I made mine, I don't know, Tina's process either, but for me, I contacted a company that I liked, and I said, hey, I use your blades, but I hate the way that they're constructed. I want this, 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 and that on it, and I want them in this size, and put my name on it. And they said, okay. And it's very expensive to do that. As you know, you can't just order 50 of them. You have to order 2,000, 10,000, at a time. And that's why I was selling them as well. But at the same time, all these other people kind of launched theirs as well. And I wasn't doing the marketing and
Mhm.
all of that other stuff and looking for distributors because it was really just for me.
Yeah.
So like I get how hard it is, to kind of do all of that. And you're right. It was easier for me because I was using a company that was making it already. I just had them
Yeah.
tweak it for
Yeah.
my needs.
Yeah.
But you went in and had them make a whole new thing.
Molds, the whole deal, the whole deal. And then sadly I got on a delay because my account was hacked. Go figure. So that put me 3 months behind as I was talking with people. But that's a whole nother story. So the journey of this took much longer than I had anticipated. And I was really excited to be able to get them to the SPCP. And then of course, FedEx dropped the ball there and we didn't make them. So now I've just been sending them out privately to people because, and the reason why I kind of think that it's a blessing in disguise, FedEx, because these needles are so advanced and they're so sharp, and the way the taper is customized and you have to know how to use it. I think it's a blessing in disguise that people have to order them directly from me so that I can gatekeep who uses them and who doesn't use them, because these in an inexperienced hand will be very dangerous
Oh yeah.
in my knowing.
Yeah, no, I mean, even, like I said, I had mine made at 0.18 millimeters, and they were so sharp. And I can't remember if it was Shannon Zickafoos or Robin Hayes, but I sent them out to them to try. And they were like, girl, these are sharp. And I was like, I told you to be careful. They're sharp. And what happened, like, how we like to prick the skin and then put the liquid numbing on? Well,
Yeah.
she had pricked around the brow, and it wasn't deep enough for, it was superficial. So it wasn't going to last, but it made little like brown marks when she did the pigment mask, and she was
Right.
freaking out. She's like, these are so sharp. And I'm like, yeah, they're
Right.
sharp, so no pressure at all. And I did notice that with yours. It glides like butter. They're so sharp, and you do not need much pressure at all, which is good because we don't want to go that deep.
That's right.
But it's also without having to work really hard for it. And that I like that a lot, because
Yeah.
the harder you have to push, the more painful it's going to be for the person.
Well,
And I did use your blades on a person, and I numb them,
yeah.
but they seemed really comfortable. It was effortless to glide on the skin. So I don't know if I got lucky with the client or if it's just the
Yeah.
blades.
Well,
So
it's the probably both, but the blades, I've designed them so that the taper is different as you go through the blade. So there's more versatility to be able to use. So you can do one blade with shading and strokes. So this one particular blade basically is going to replace two of your manual blades, and you can use it in one session. Now, the way I've designed them, so we have the larger, this is the largest, this is 0.25. This is for large areas of the body that you want to tap onto. So if you've got some scar work, or if you have some, big brows you want to do, or a lip line, that type of thing. You could even do some areola shading with this. If once you get proficient on how to do the shading, you can do anything with it. So that's why I created a larger one. And then I have the two smaller. These are both standard. They're standard size. So this is the standard size. One is the polished, you can see, and one is let me turn it around. I'll do it upside down so you know the difference. So this one is the textured, and it doesn't have quite the same kind of sheen as this one does. Now, if I take them, I'm just going to take them out of the package. Yeah.
and what I love about these is the bend
Yeah.
in them. It's so flexible.
And they're super sturdy. It's like a micro fibered type of package on here. So they're super strong and durable. They don't rip easily. So, the best way to open them is there are the tabs up at the top that you can use like so, which will peel it right open and allow the back to be completely exposed there for you. And then I also created handles, and these handles are shorter. And I like the shorter handles so that you can use it under the mag light. I really like working with a mag light in order to, so I'm just going to see how I'm holding it just by the tool, the tip of the needle, and then I'm going to just
Now,
put that in. And I like to use it. You can use it on like the hockey stick if you want to use that flat edge. This is how you're going to use it for the flat strokes. If you want to use the flat edge for doing long strokes, you can hockey stick it. What I saw with you were doing, you were using it straight up and down, and you can do that, but that's not how you want to tap.
right.
So
My question then is, because you did say that I do like to typically use it up and I move my hand around, but so you told me to use it more like a, you know, more in that hockey stick position. But then does that mean that I need to push it the other way to use the other side? Because that's uncomfortable for me to use it.
Well, that's a very extreme hockey stick. This is about how much I
All
bend
right.
it the most.
I'm not a hockey stick person, so I don't know what I'm doing.
So
Right.
it's very light, and that will depend on how you're, as long as it's flat to the skin, because that's where you're getting your stroke, is from the flatness,
Right.
or your from the flatness. Now, if you want to use it more like a U blade, then of course you would straighten it up, and you would use that top edge. So if you're having it, you know, here it's just a little bit, you can still turn it over and use that edge along for strokes, no problem that way. So you
Yeah, I definitely like that.
still, but you want a little bit of an angle on it so that you can get flat when you're using the flat side on the skin. And then on this side, you've got that edge to do for curve, and you're going to get really good strokes in there and fluid all the way through. So it's a cool needle that way. And then when you're tapping, you saw how quickly that pigment went in, right?
Really fast, like
So
really fast. I was like, oh,
Like,
I'm gonna be here all day because I'm not a soft tap girl. You know, I typically don't do that. And I do keep some soft tap needles around because every once in a while, because I really hate doing lower eyeliner, and so to get into those inner corners, I'm always really nervous. So I do like to tap those in sometimes. And you know, I was like, oh, this is going to be great, but how long am I going to have to tap there? And then I did that one tap, and I was like,
oh. Well, so when you start to get proficient, you can tap strokes. You could tap strokes where you're just literally tapping strokes, tap, tap, tap strokes, tap, tap, tap strokes. You can drag the strokes, so you don't have to cut the skin if you want to tap too. Because of the flex on this, because these needles are so flexible, you've got that ability to bounce.
Yeah.
Hear that tap?
I hear it.
That bounce in the skin.
I hear it.
But for bottom liners, these are the bomb.com. I have used them on a couple ladies that were very, very afraid. And all I would have them do is look up to the ceiling, right? And then as I'm like, they're looking at their forehead, so I'm pulling them down this way. And then as I work in, so I'm on the eye, it's the same thing. It's just literally a push into the skin where you're pushing in the pigment, and then you're pulling back. You go forward, you're going to push in the pigment again, and then you're going to pull back. And you're going to keep doing that all the way along the whole lash line, and then you'll wipe and see how much is there. I did 2 passes. This woman's liner is incredible, and she didn't even need a touch up because it looks great.
Nice.
So it's great for that. And you can also do it for lip liner. So if you're doing lips and you want that nice lip line, that just a little bit more of that control around the lip line, it's great for this as well. You can also use this on stretch marks if you wanted to. You could tap in for stretch marks. So it's a very universal, it's a universal blade. And this is why, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's the best blade on the market at this point, because it's multifaceted, many different, like you can use it for many different techniques and many different procedures. So one blade, you can do a lot. You don't have to change out your cartridges and re-put one in and put another, you know, back and forth. And the head, there's no weight, so it's super, super light. You don't get the wrist fatigue like with machine work. I'm getting ganglions in all through my wrist from that short repetitive motion. Now, because there isn't like a lot of this, I'm doing mostly this with my fingers. So you don't get that same type of wrist fatigue. It's quite amazing. I really love it. I just can't get this in the hands of people fast enough, because once they try it, then they see why it's so unique.
Yeah, and like I said, for me, even though, you know, being a machine girl mostly, to say like, oh, well, you know, it's not for me because I really don't use hand tools. Like I said, there's so many times that I do use the hand tools because, you know, the wing of the liner that I want to set it before we get going, the person's too squirmish or too, you know, whatever. I haven't tried it for the lip, but you know, I do, like I said, I do keep soft tap needles around, but they're all round, right? Or they're flat, but they're more like magnums. So to have this in the arsenal and not to have like 6 different sizes or 10 different sizes of
Right.
soft tap. Not that I'm crapping on soft tap. Everything has its place, but it's just not my place. Like I don't use it.
Right.
So to be able to have these for my hair strokes when I need it, but then also to be able to have it for a really difficult eyeliner or a wing or a lip liner is amazing for me because I love having that versatility with that.
Yeah, and around the eyes, it's so great because you don't have that pointy edge. This is how, you know, I'm known for my tapered liners. Like I can taper them fine, right all the way down. And this has always been the magic. This has been the magic. This is why I'm able to do it. I can't do that with a machine. Can't do that with a flat needle. Can't do that with a curve, with a U blade, but you can do it with the BI-Blade and get that beautiful taper, and my clients just love it. I just want to show a little bit here about how this needle grabs so much. Like look at that pigment, it just sticks. This is the textured needle. Now it just sticks on there. So
what pigment are you using for that?
this is Li.
Okay, so it's a thick pigment.
Yeah.
I was practicing with it with I used the regular permablend, and I used their microblading set, which is thicker, and it held the pigment great on both.
Yes.
The texture, it definitely holds the pigment well.
This has been diluted, so it's not super thick. I dilute it down. So I like to dilute because I don't want it heavy and too gummy. But to be able to have it like on the blade and to be able to work with it like that, you know what? I'm gonna go balls to the walls, and I'm gonna do a blade right here on my hand.
Ooh.
Just because I'm brutal that way. I like to
suffer for our art, right?
Right. Okay, so we're just going, I'll do it up here on my beautiful spot where I did my scar removal. So this is a scar, and we're just gonna blade right through that. Let me get some.
And while you're doing that, I'm gonna turn around over here and blow my nose because I'm still coming off of my cold.
Yeah. Okay, so there's my beautiful stroke.
Pardon me. And I mean, it's worth noting that like this is through scar tissue.
Yeah, that's a scar. So let me just wipe, and you can see, there you go. There's my stroke. One pass through a scar.
With a diluted pigment.
I'm using a brown. This is a, I think it's like Navajo brown.
I love that color.
Yeah, it's a good color, right? It's one of their better colors, but super strong and super flexible. Like these pins are super sharp because of the taper. Again, this is a customized taper. This is not a standard taper. This is not a long taper. This is a customized taper that I had built. So there's my little stroke there. You can see.
And like I said, I can definitely attest to that because I did not know that those were 0.25s. They are in no.
Oh, we lost your sound.
I'm back. Yeah. know what I was saying, I can attest to that, the taper on it, because I had no idea that they were 0.25s. I thought, I read 0.15 on the other needles and I thought that was a 0.15. It performs like a 0.15. It does not perform at all like a
No,
0.25.
no, not at all. And also because, sorry, I'm just going to go back to the seat. Like I'm going to open so you can see the skin's open ever so slightly. But look at, there's no bleeding.
That's awesome.
And again, because of the taper, I created it super sharp, but so it wouldn't deposit too deep. I'm finding that a lot of the blades that are really, really sharp go down into the skin too far. And then you're like pulling back and you're like, oh my God, because you've gone too deep. But with this specific design, it's going to allow you to work more shallow in the skin as long as you use the appropriate pressure. Of course, if you go really hard, it's going to go deeper. But if you use your regular pressure that you've been using, you will find that it is a nice, perfect sweet spot. It hits right in the sweet spot and kind of stops right before it gets too deep. So I love that about it a lot, especially for microblading. It's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I noticed when I was playing around with it too is that the way that these, like, it's so steep here, right, on this side of it, and then the round edge on that side. So what I was worried about was that without having the needles sort of giving each other like pressure, that they were going to, because they are so flexible.
Yeah.
And so I was worried that as I was going through, it was kind of going to kind of fan out on me a little bit, and
If
it doesn't.
you push too hard, they will. Or if you go too, if you go a little bit too much sliding on the angle, it can. It's not like, I mean, that's going to happen on any needle if you go too hard, because of the flex on it. Like if I was to squish this together, you know, it'll overlap itself. It'll fold on itself.
Yeah.
Because
But you know, for me, I didn't notice it when I was playing around with it, and I guess because I just wasn't going, you know, too hard. But they don't sort of, even when I do it with my nail like this, they're not separating
yeah,
to the point that I would be concerned in the skin,
yeah,
which I thought was great. And I'm guessing it's just how they're balanced and they're on each other, but
yeah.
it just doesn't.
It's the angle that they're on. Like you can see how much flex is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the angle that they're on. Now the trick to shading though, the trick to shading is being a little bit on an angle. We do need a little bit on an angle. We need to be a little bit, if you're straight up and down and now think back to the Dixon technique, right? With the slope, when we're straight up and down and we're shading in, we're doing our shading and we're going do. All we're shading is a line. So at this point, we're just shading a line. So we don't want to shade just and have just a line, right? We want to have a little bit of width in that. And that's going to come by just slightly tilting your blade. So instead of being straight up and down, you're slightly working on an angle. And then as you're tapping in, you're sliding on a slope, that pigment in. So again, I'm just tapping here and this hardly hurts. Like it's not, like you could do this to your client so easily. And I just want to show you. So that's the spot. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I hope it's a pretty spot.
I call that, you know, just like a controlled blowout, where you're using the blowout inside of the area where you want the color to be. Oh yeah, look at all of that. And then maybe 7 taps I saw you do, 7 to 10 taps,
Yeah,
and it got that much color, which is impressive.
that's pretty good. And that's just right on my hand here. So that's gonna, that would stay. And then for aftercare for this, I would just cavel on it, dry heal for the 3 days, and then start putting the aftercare on. And of course, that little top layer is going to flake off, but you're going to be left with that nice light shading underneath. And you can do a full pass on a brow, and depending on how many layers you go over it will depend on how saturated it's going to be. So you could start, if say you have a client who wants a really, really natural brow and they're really scared, then you could start and just do one shaded pass all the way through and let it heal, let them come back, and it would just give a nice light halo behind the back of the hair. But if you did a second pass, you're going to add that density in. So each time you're layering, you're adding that density, which allows that saturation depth to build and gives you more control. And this is how I can do a 30-minute shaded brow. Like, people still message me and they don't believe that I can do it. And it's like, well, as soon as you get me there live, you'll be able to see that I can. And it's just literally because the pigments penetrate so well into the skin, and it's so quickly. And by doing that ever so slightly, again, and you saw the angle. So instead of being perpendicular, I'm slightly tilted sideways on an angle, slightly. So that's straight up and down. And then I'm slightly bent. And then as I'm pushing into the skin, I kind of do a shoveling motion. It's kind of like I'm circular. See how my hand here is circular? And this is all I'm doing. Everything is being done from my fingers. It's not being done from my wrist. It's not being done from my elbow. I'm not hurting my shoulder. I'm not getting neck lock. Like, I mean, this is all come out of my suffering from the industry and my poor body, and being an artist that just wanted a tool that performed better.
Well, yeah, since, you know, I made this mistake, so I'll bring it up so that you can go over it. When I was tapping into the skin,
Yeah.
because I was using it so high up on this side, you told me go ahead and lean back a little bit so that I get all of the needles at the bottom.
That's right.
Going in, and I was still getting an incredible amount of coverage, but instead of using it up this way in order to be able to get all of those needles, because they go all the way down to there, you told me to lean back a little bit more.
Yeah, that's right. So, and again, it's going to depend how you angle your blade at the top. So the curve starts. So we've got the U blade, basically the U blade curve here, and then we've got the flat side there. So it's not curved all the way around. It's not curved all the way around. It has a flat edge, and that flat edge is what allows you to shade or stroke if you want long, crisp strokes. And then the curved U blade top is if you want that in out, and then also to be able to work around, you know, delicate areas for shading, or so that you don't have that point if you're doing the eyeliner. So that's where it's all at. I love this blade. I'm so excited by it. I'm going to actually play more. And because you can also use it for traditional tattooing, right? This is not just for regular permanent makeup.
You do some.
You can use this for traditional tattooing as well. So if you are a manual artist and you want to offer more services for your clients, some tiny tattoos, you know, some bigger tattoos, you can do all of that with this. It's just a matter of using your traditional tattoo pigments and working within the lines of whatever you've created. So there's a lot of versatility in one little tool. You could take it anywhere, man. You could be in Thailand and do tattoos on the beach if you wanted. You could take it up to the ski hills. You could do it, you know, there's just, it's limitless. Put it that way. It's limitless. It's only what your mind is going to restrict. But if you take this, I can't wait till artists start using this and come up with their techniques. That's what I want to see, is what new creations this will create. What kind of hybrid brows, or what kind of hybrid liner, or what's going to happen as far as, you know, how artists are going to take this tools and evolve it, which I'm very excited about, because that gets me going. I love the innovation, and I love being able to incorporate and empower and bring, you know, newness and versatility and innovation to the industry, because, you know, without that, we're just going to be, you know, old school, right?
Well, now the big question is, you've got three sizes. There are 3 or 4 here.
There's two. There are 2 sizes, but 3 needles, because one's textured and one's not textured.
Gotcha. So of these sizes, we already talked about how incredible, you know, versatility that they are. Are you using these at all for SMP? Are you developing something specifically for SMP in this range? What's the future for this BI-Blade for you?
You could use this for microblading hair strokes. Absolutely. It's fantastic for that. I haven't done it yet, but I already have manual SMP, and I already created a needle I have an SMP needle for my manual SMP work, and it's a full technique that nobody does.
And if I remember correctly, because I think I remember when you were first even developing this, and I won't give away any kind of things, but I remember you telling me that you were testing a particular type of needle that was already on the market, but not for doing this.
Yeah.
And you were working with it and you were getting great results. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's something in that same realm.
So
And I'm going back by 10 years or more.
I went to the manufacturer and gave him my specs because the needles that were there just weren't working. I needed something that was going to work for what I needed. So I had that needle actually made first before this needle was made. But I had such resistance from the SMP world. And anytime I would post, you know, my information or my stuff, I'd have like 5 other male artists come after and write how that's impossible and it's going to be crap and this and that. And again, just because ignorance is bliss and they didn't have the education and they don't understand. So it's easier to poo-poo something in our industry than it is to actually learn it and go, wow, this works really great. So it's going to probably rear its head once all these SMP artists get so much body fatigue that they can't do a 3-hour session anymore. Then they'll be DMing me going, Shauna, what was that manual technique you did again where I didn't have to hammer the head over and over and over? So it's just, you know, you can bring things to the industry, but if people don't, it's so cliquey. Our industry is so cliquey and with no regulations, right? It's just everybody hops on board on whatever the new latest bandwagon is, and if they don't learn something new, or if they see something that they feel is threatening or they don't understand, they'll crap on it instead of actually learning about it. And that's, I kind of feel what's happened with the manual SMP. But I do have artists that are around the world. I've got artists in New Zealand and Australia, and I've trained people in Ireland and Italy, some in the States. So they love it because it's so simple for them. It's super cost effective. I mean, the needle's like $2 and the handle's like, so $5, you can do a whole head. If you choose to do a whole head that way. But
I think that's where I think things are really changing now, is that we went from this kind of gatekeeping sort of industry to practically a free-for-all, where you go on YouTube or you pay for an online class and you've got just kind of free-for-all, and everything got really diluted because people were learning from people who learned from people who learned from people who learned from somebody who didn't know what they were doing. And now I think, like I said, where people are asking the scientific questions, they want to know why. And so when someone comes into it and says like, oh no, we've got this new way of doing it, or this new needle, or this new pigment, the immediate question that I see people asking is like, how does that work? Why is that better? And the people that are teaching it, are some of them are now having that answer for them. I'm like, well, it works because of this. And I love that. I love that we're asking the questions, because now if you come to me and say, well, I've got this manual SMP technique that's way better, I'm going to say, well, why is it better? And you'll give me a scientific explanation. I'll say, well, holy shit, well, that makes sense, right? And there's no reason to poo-poo it anymore. The poo-pooing came from, well, just because it is. It's better. It's better because it's newer and you don't know because you're too old, you know? So I think we're really changing in that way, which is nice.
At the time when I started the manual SMP, it was the finest needle on the market. I had made the finest needle, and that's why I was getting these incredible tiny, like, okay, so I let my students work on my arm. I don't know if you can see that.
I do.
There's little dots there. So these are machine up here, and then the super fine ones back there are the manual SMP ones. And I'm watching them because I did a bunch of machine, and then I watched the manual SMP, and they're fading out more gradually and naturally than the machine work. The machine work is bluing with age, and the manual work is just softening of its original color and fading out with time. And it looks fantastic. This was Deb Dibley worked on me for this. And now I wouldn't say that manual for the head is the be all and end all, but when it comes to doing touch-ups or filling in little voids or readjusting a hairline, patch testing, which every artist should be doing on SMP, that's really great. So it has its place in the world, as does this beautiful, amazing BI-Blade. So again, just something that was created out of necessity and innovation, and I needed a better tool. And so I just got mad. That's what happens. That's how I created SMP Essentials. I got mad because there was no, quality online training that was out there at the time when I created it. Now there's so much online training. I mean, this was way during COVID. Now there's so much online training out there. It's insane. But it usually comes from me getting frustrated. And then I'm like, okay, this has to be better. How can we make it better?
Yeah, I mean, necessity is the mother of invention, right? Like, that's how we have most things.
Yeah.
Which I think is important too. Like, if you're using something and you're not getting the results that you want out of it, then either you need to change the way that you're using it or change the thing that you're using. And if there's nothing on the market, then you have to create something.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I mean, well, yeah, and it's a big process. It's a long process. It's a passion of love for sure. You got to be able to put the investment in and the time, and then, follow through with it. So it's a process. I had really, looked forward. I'd been promoting for the SPCP. I wanted everybody there to have them so that they could try them. Now having to just trickle it out little bit by little bit, it's a little bit more tedious. But again, being able to control who's using them and who isn't using them makes me as as a practitioner and a contributor to the industry, I feel responsible, right? I have a duty to keep people safe. So it's nice now that I have that gateway that I can control it, so that, I have had people messaging me that want the blade, and unfortunately I've looked at their Instagram and they just don't have the skill level, and I've had to decline. And I'm like, I appreciate that you're really interested in this, but you need more experience before you're going to be getting hands on this, because it would be like a surgeon using a diamond machine over a regular scalpel. A diamond's going to cut so much faster and cleaner and deeper than a scalpel. So you got to learn. You've got to have the learning curve in order to grow with it. And that's why I included that video. So I created the video that goes with the box, and there's a little QR code on there, and you scan the QR code, and then the video. I've already lost my phone. I've been sitting here and I've already lost my phone.
I thought I had mine somewhere. I don't have the QR code on my box. But while we're on that topic, I think it's really important, because there was a time where there were some people that I saw, and we're going back years, probably like 2015, 2016, where microbladers who did not know how to use machines were like, oh, we'll just do other things with the microblade, which is exactly what we're telling you to do here. But what these people were doing, and I know you remember them, were that they were microblading the other procedures. So they were dragging the needle for eyeliner, dragging the needle for lip liner, and that is not what we're suggesting to do with these BI-Blades at all. These are more of like what we consider a soft tap or a manual method of tapping in, and never dragging, the lip line, dragging it along. You've got to tap it.
Yeah, it would always be a tap when you're doing liner or lips or liner. You would never drag. The only way you would drag these is if it was the only time you would drag these is if it was you're using it for strokes. So I just want to
and we mean hair strokes. We mean brow strokes.
Yeah, hair strokes.
Oh, look at me.
Yeah,
That's me.
Look at this is that. So Angela did a blind review on these blades. She had never used them before, so she did a blind review on them, and it was great to watch. And she was pleasantly surprised, which was fantastic. I love that.
And it was a complete blind review. Like, you can hear me talking to myself in the video where I'm like, okay, Shauna. And, I did not, and I did it on purpose. I did not want to play with them, because I wanted people to be able to see if they were easy to use. I wanted people to see how easy it was for me to kind of catch on.
Yeah.
And so I did do that completely blind. It's at my YouTube channel, which is Teach Me PMU. So youtube.com/Teach Me PMU. If anybody wants to see it, it's quite long. I think it's over an hour.
Yeah. And
Because I did play around with it for a while.
you have other trainings too. Like, how many courses now do you have on your website for training? Because I've taken one of your machine classes.
Right. So actually, that machine class, I am redoing everything. So right now, the answer is really none, but soon. So on the website, I am bringing all of my classes over to a new platform, and while I'm doing that, I'm revamping everything because I have new machines and new techniques to work with and things like that. So it's getting bigger and better. And now that we've moved to a lot of people are looking for online training. And even when I put that one up, it was at that time, that the one that you're talking about, the tattoo techniques course, there were 56 videos in that. And I did it as much, I made it as comprehensive as possible because I didn't want to leave anything out in an online course. And this one is even going to be more than that, more activities, more hands-on, more interaction. It's going to be amazing. I'm halfway through it. And I just keep adding more and more as I go. So it's definitely even bigger and better than it was before. Everyone who had the class before is going to get this one for free as well.
Oh, that.
And what I am also working on, I don't have my book here. So I created a practice course or a practice book, and I won't talk about it very long because it's not for manual techniques. It's for machine techniques, but it's all practice drills for that. And I'm creating an online companion course for that as well. And you get it for free when you get the book, or you get the book for free when you get the course. So that'll be available very soon. And then right now there's some free things available. So teachmepmu.com. There's 3 free mini courses that are up.
Right.
And if you remember back in 2015, 2016, I did a presentation for SPCP that was 10 things that you're doing wrong as a permanent makeup artist and how to fix them. And I said, you know what, I'm going to put this online. And so because it was just an ebook. At first it was an ebook. I did it as a class. And now I started creating it as an online course. And it turned from 10 things to, I think I've got about 25 on there already. And so it ends up becoming like a big thing. So once that's ready to be released, that'll be out too. It's all these weird little things that we do that are bad habits, or, just stupid things that we do, like taking a picture with the head sort of that way and then sort of that way for your before and afters, just little things, but also super important things as well, for aftercare and techniques and things like that. So those are all of the courses I'm working on now, and they will be released soon, but the free ones are up. So everybody can go there and pick up their free one.
I love to hear that. And the thing that I find so informative about your course is that the fact that you're a tattoo artist first. And there's a lot of tattoo artists in the industry that don't want to give up their goodies. They don't want to share. Like, they don't want to share with PMU. They don't like our industry. That's still out there. It's starting to buffer. I think we're starting to break that line is starting to merge, especially with the new technologies and the new machines, and seeing the crossovers. And we brought cartridges, and then the tattoo people, oh, well, we want cartridges. And so they're starting to see that we're innovating and bringing things to their industry.
They're talking to each other. Like we finally have the two sides of the industry talking to each other. So PermaBlend is, world famous, and permanent makeup artists came together. FK Irons came together with Lulu and created Microbute. Like we started melding all of these things. So all of us that, like Taryn Darling, that was a trained tattoo artist, Will Anthony, me, all of us, Amy Connors, like all of us that were working with tattoo machines, and everybody that was like, you cannot do that, you're doing it wrong. And then finally the worlds kind of collided. And that's where we really started taking off as an industry, because once the worlds collided, they each brought their information together, and it has been nonstop since then. Which I think is incredible and awesome.
But this is, again, going back to, you were one of the pioneers in doing this. You're not giving yourself enough credit, girl, because nobody was sharing.
Shauna says pioneer, she means pain in the ass. So what she means is I was online telling people, no, of course you could do that. Of course you can do that.
No, I am telling you, you were sharing knowledge in our industry when nobody else was. You were educating people on things that nobody else was. And that's what I mean. You were a pioneer. You started this escalade of let's get tattooing and permanent makeup together. And this is years ago. I mean, when did you first do your tattoo techniques course? Was that in 2014 or?
Yeah, around then, 2014, 2015, and it's
Yeah.
called Tattoo Techniques for the Permanent Cosmetic Professional. And it's because I wanted people to understand
Yeah.
what they were doing and why they were doing it, and to be able to say, if I can't do it this way, right, then I'm going to do, I'm going to adjust it a little bit, and to understand the techniques from the perspective of someone who, because in tattooing, you have to be able to do everything because you don't know what's going to walk through the door, right? So you have to be able to tattoo an elbow as easy as you can tattoo a chest over here or an arm or whatever. And so I was bringing that because people were just asking the wrong question, and they still are asking the wrong questions in the groups often. And so it's still, I think, a relative course, which is why I'm putting all the time and effort into remaking it.
Yeah. Well, great. The SPC is very fortunate to have you. And if you guys are on there and you don't know about the SPCP, it's the Society of Permanent Cosmetic Professionals. And it's pretty much the only organization in the world that holds a level of integrity and ethics and professionalism and respect within our industry that's unregulated. And that's still to me is a big issue. Not that we're not regulated. I really wish we were, because I think there wouldn't be so much bad training out there. And I think there'd be a lot less people that are lost and feeling that, this industry is really taking advantage of them. It does go down to, do your homework, but the SPCP has an amazing resource of technicians that train, that are reputable, qualified, trained technicians. They have years of, like 30 years of vaulted knowledge in the
Actually,
life.
I think 32 year. So SPCP was incepted in 1990, and there are really only two major organizations, SPCP and AAM, and a lot of our members are dual members, so there's no reason one or the other.
Yeah.
But consistently, the SPCP has been around, and not only just sitting there as an organization to say like, hey, I belong to this, but also promoting all of that. And we've had our ups and downs, and there was a huge change just recently. And we changed our executive directorship and all of that. And so if you haven't noticed, the logo changed, the upper management changed, everything changed. And I am so proud of what they're doing. I poured blood, sweat, and tears into it in the 4 years that I was there.
Or you are president for how many years?
I was president for 2 years, but we're there for 4 years, so we do two-year stints, and so for 4 years, with blood, sweat, and
Yeah.
tears went into it, and during the worst possible time because of COVID and pandemics and things like that. But I think when you stand on a foundation of morals and ethics and guidelines, you can weather the storm. And so all of the changes that needed to be made are being made. It's definitely noticeable. I notice that. I'm so proud of them. I'm so tapped out just in my personal life and in my business life and everything. I'm so tapped out to be able to contribute to the SPCP the way that I would love to, but I'm getting back on track, and I'm definitely going to get back in that. But I love what they're doing. And we are international. We're in Asian countries, we're in South America or South Africa, and then we're also, as the SPCP Maine, we're in all over the world, which is really incredible. And you've been a part of it all this time too. You're a lifetime member, aren't you?
I am. I became a member in 2008.
Yeah.
2000.
I think this is my year. I think I get my lifetime membership this year. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm proud of it because I feel like we're definitely an organization that is something to be proud of.
Got my pins on right there.
Yeah, I know. I see it right behind you too. I see it behind you.
Yeah. CPCP, that was a big one to get. So the CPCP is a certified permanent cosmetic professional. That is an exam that we take that has been created through the SPCP, and it is an exam. Most people don't pass it on the first.
But wait. it not only is it an exam, it is a proctored exam. So even if you choose to take it online, it is proctored by a live, real person. And so it is not open book. You cannot cheat on it. And it is not the same test for the last 30 years. They change the test every few years. And so it's not even really that easy to pass, which it is passable, of course, but it's not easy. And
No.
so if you're thinking of taking a test and thinking, oh, I'll just grab the book and I'll breeze my way through it, it's not. And that to me really means something.
Yeah.
And I think it's important.
I was so proud. I hold my CPCP credentials behind my name with such pride, because it took me 5 years of continuous training just to feel that I was qualified enough to do it. And then I didn't actually take my exam until I think my 7th year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really, and I passed on the first go round, so I was happy. But I trained and trained and trained. I trained in areolas, I trained in lips, I trained in eyeliner, I trained in brows, I trained in shading, I trained in ombre. Like, I did all the training that I paramedical that I could possibly take. And then of course the workbook, and you got to read through all of that, and
And
then
now
you
also we're offering for the first time ever at the convention this past year, and in the new ones, they offered a study course. So yeah, Marie Jenkinson did a study class for it, which a lot of people took, and I wish that was there when I did it, because I did not wait to be a member for a million years. As soon as I joined SPCP, I'm like, I need to take this test, because I'm a giant overachiever, and I like to have the things. And so I took it. At that time, I was a tattoo artist for over a decade, and I was doing permanent makeup for over a decade. But I was like, well, shit, am I going to be able to take this? Like, it's been so long since I even took any training, and will I pass it? And thank the Lord I did, but it wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy, and I did have to study the book. So even at that, it meant something, and I was really excited to take it. At that
and
time.
there's questions on there, and they really throw you gotta like
Mhm.
read them and go back and read them, and then pass them, and then come back to them and go, okay, and then then you hope you did you well. But it was a good one. I'm glad I have that now, and it makes me feel like I'm a credible artist. Like, I just see what's happening in the industry in my area, and these $250 brows from people that have been doing this for a year or two, and I'm watching their videos, and their lights aren't wrapped, and they're not using gloves, and their clip cords aren't wrapped, and they've got their thing up around their hair. And oh my God, I'm just like, this, I had to even reach out, and I know that people may or may not appreciate this, but I feel it's my duty as a practitioner, and definitely a CPCP trained practitioner, to just slide into their DMs and go, oh, by the way, I'm not sure if you've maybe upgraded your bloodborne pathogens recently, but you may want to take a look at this class. Da, 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 da. I happen to have noticed that lights weren't wrapped, that you were wearing, your cord around your neck, and da, 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 da. And they're like, oh, thank you. Okay, great. I'll take a look, so that's all you can do, bring awareness. But
I think what is that? Rising tide raises all ships. If somebody gets an infection down the block from me because of bad training or bad BBP, or any of that, my appointments go down, right? Because everybody, oh yeah, I'm going to get my lips done. Oh, I had my lips done by someone, and I got a bad infection. Don't do that. So I think that it's not that we're like, oh, you're doing it wrong. It's that you're doing it a little wrong. Let me guide you into how to do it right, and you're going to get better, which is going to make me better, and and it keeps the industry safe and good. And I think that that's part of being part of the SPCP, is that it is not required. So I mean, unless you're in New Jersey requires one or the other, right? But most places do not require much in the way of regulations and structure and things like that. So to put something on your name, and to know that you self-imposed it, and that you voluntarily put yourself through whatever it is that you needed to do to get those credentials, I think says a lot about us as artists to say, like, you know what, I do go the extra mile for my
Yeah.
clients. And I believe that there's a way to not to be like, oh, you're doing it wrong, change your gloves, or, you know, something like that. But just like you said, to say, hey, you're kind of doing this wrong and it's going to cause problems down the line. So here's how you can remedy that. Here's the course, or, you know, whatever it is that you need to do. Because I don't want anyone in my area to do bad work.
No.
I don't. And not because I'm not afraid that they're going to take work from me, because there's plenty to go around. But if they do bad work, they're going to take a lot more business from me than they ever could as a great artist.
That's right. That's 100% right. No, it's so very true. But all we can do is, yeah, like you said, lift people up and help to educate them, and you know, hope for betterment in the industry at that time. I've been off now for a while. I injured my hand very badly. I shredded it, and I may need surgery. I don't know yet, so I haven't been able to get back to work doing anything at this point. But I'm still growing, you know, with my students, and helping educate them, and still, you know, keeping up on my content and growing. But this industry is so much more than just being a permanent makeup artist. You need to have so many skills. And that's why coaching is so important, and having somebody that you can, you know, have in your back pocket. And the SPCP has always been good that way. And, you know, because there's so much resources and people. And in my area, where I am in the Lower Mainland, Vancouver and all the surrounding areas, there's 4 CPCP artists. 4.
There are a few SPCP members in Staten Island where I am. I am the only CPCP certified. And, you know, and I play that up, of course, and I say, you know, Staten Island's only CPCP. But it breaks my heart, because I know that there are so many people here doing the work, and that they could be so much better if they had more education, and that they were a little more dedicated to that.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart, even though I do use it as my selling point. You know, I wish that there were more.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there are the few members that there are. But then, you know, we're New York City, so we have other boroughs, and certainly Manhattan and the other boroughs, there are more CPCPs. But I would like to see more people do that, to voluntarily put those restrictions on themselves, and to make themselves a little more uplifted.
Just make the artistry better all the way around. So we've covered a lot. I'm so excited, my little butt. And I've done everything. So I had the boxes made. I have to, you know, stuff all the boxes. I inspect all the needles. I seal them all up. And so I've put a lot of love into these babies, a lot of love. And if anybody out there has any questions in regards to the BI-Blade, or Angela's training, or my training, or, you know, I still have my SMP Essentials online, and I do my training for manual SMP via Zoom, because it needs to be very hands-on, and I send you a kit, and there's a whole deal that goes with it. But it's a good 6-week commitment. My classes are not generally very quick. They take, even my SMP Essentials, to do it on a regular basis and get through the class, it's at least 6 weeks, at least. And just the training module, like you, it's all like repetition. I have them go through repetition. You know, you need that muscle memory. It's so important in the training. Like, people just think, oh, I can take this training and watch it, and then I'll be able to go and do it. And it's not like that. You have to do the actual practice work in order to continually ingrain that into your subconscious. You know, otherwise, you know, all it's going to take is one person to sneeze, or, oh, I forgot my parking, and it throws you all off. And then you're like, where was I? What was I doing? What was my rhythm? You know, like, it's so easy to get thrown when you're in your zone. So you need that repetition in order to, you know, have that ingrained, so that if you get thrown off, and you can just come right back to it. It's like driving. Like, you wouldn't take an online course, get into a vehicle, and go start driving. Like, you just wouldn't do that. You practice driving.
Well, I'm sure there are those. But yeah, no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't do that.
You want to practice first, and then you get your learner's license. You do more practicing, get out into the world, and then you get your main license, and then you're good to go. And I think our industry needs to be like that too, where you baby steps. You do a little bit here, and then you get that under your belt. Then you move to the next step. You get that under your belt, and then you're off to the races. But this whole 3-day class thing, it just, oh God, it's just kills me. I don't even know what to say about that. But you can't learn this craft in 3 days. It's a lifelong adventure.
It is a lifelong adventure because we'll do it again. Yeah. Like here we go. This is the little wall,
That's
right? And and it's the little wall. I say the little wall because I've got shit that I haven't even put up there because it's just sitting in my drawer and I have to go get more frames for it. But some of the dates on there are early 2000s. Some of the dates are this year. I took 4 trainings this year with Carla because I fell in love with her color theory and I was like, I need more. I did her 2 immersives. I did the 2 classes and then I took the 30-day immersives because not only what the classes themselves were great, but having that hands-on, that interaction, that live course, like you said, it's something that's necessary. I've been tattooing for how many years does that make? Since 1997, and I took 4 classes in the last 6 months. Not because I think I'm bad, but because things are changing and I want to make sure that I'm staying at the front, at the cutting edge. And I want to make sure that my work is as good as it can be because just because it's good today doesn't mean that it can't be even better tomorrow.
No, it's true.
So,
And I've gotten to the point where I just put all of my certificates in books now. I just didn't have enough wall space at that point. But with your I got lost with the books. We were talking about the books.
the training book, the practice book, or the
training. With your training book, when do you think you're going to have that available for people?
very soon. It like all things, as soon as you start doing something, you're like, oh, I can make this better. And you start adding more crap to it. So it's grown and grown and grown. And so the original book, which the books themselves, I pulled the original book down because I did add so much to it. But this was the original book, and it is all, I mean, it has everything.
Wow.
And I will maybe even do some practices for being able to shade with your needle in there as well. But with this, I pulled it down, but it's available on Amazon. So as soon as I relaunch it, not only is it available on Amazon, but it's in all the countries. So you don't have to be, in the United States to get it. And everyone that gets the book gets a free ticket into the course, and everybody who buys the course, if you don't want to buy the physical book, gets a PDF download of it. And so like I said, this was already like 80 pages and I put even more into it. So I'm super excited. And I just have a few more modules that I have to record and it'll be up soon. So what we're going to do is once this is done, because this should be the first thing that I'm finished, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, only because COVID definitely put me a week behind since I couldn't do anything. But what we'll do is I will send you 20 vouchers. So you will get to, once we release it, maybe we could jump on a live real quick, but I'll let you figure out how you want to do it. If you want to do a contest or whatever, if somebody buys the first 20 people to buy your blades or however we're going to do that. And we'll give out 20 vouchers for the practice book for people who buy your BI-Blades.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Wow. Well, we're going to have to be sending you some more blades for sure. You can get all up and lifted on that.
That's how I guilt trip you into sending me.
No problem. Hey, I have no problem. Anybody that wants to be an ambassador and share and believes, you believe in my product. So I'm happy to support you with that. Absolutely. I just want to quickly, after looking at your wall there, how much do you think you've spent on your education? I just like to throw that out there, just so newbies on there can have a good understanding of where our
for fuck's sake. I tell people that, like my clients, I tell people that training is roughly roughly anywhere between 1,000 to 15 to 1,700 per day.
Yeah.
So if you're taking a 1 day class for 1,500, or if you're taking a 3 day class, it might be 4,500, right? So I tell them, you know, every single one of these up here was at least $1,000, at least $1,000. I took the fee-brow ones up here. I did those online.
Yeah.
They were online courses. It took me like 6 months each, and those were, I think, 1,700 by themselves.
Yeah.
I got Mary over here
Yeah.
for with
Grand.
that,
Yeah.
that had to at least been 1,500 for a microblading course that we did, or microneedling. Belinda Hale, that's going back a long time with Purebo. All of the SPCP things that I spent a few thousand going to,
So
it's not
you're
cheap.
in for a good 100K for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I am. But that's the thing. If a brow, I charge $650 for brows, which I realize is on the low end, especially for New York City. But let's say 2 brows is 1 day of training. I could do that in a single day of work. You got to stop looking at the training as, oh my God, it's so expensive. And you have to look at it as, how much more money am I going to make by understanding
Right.
how this
And
works,
it's
right?
and so every time that I ever took a class, I would always come back and my brows would go up $100. As simple as that. You go and take a class, costs $2, $3, $4, $5,000. You know, you're paying for your travel and your accommodations, the whole thing, right? It's not just the training. So I easily, yeah, it's crazy how much it is, but I've definitely put
But you know
in.
what? Every time I've taken a training, I come back and my brows get $100 better.
Yes. Right.
Right?
Right.
So it's not that you're raising the price to pay for the training; it's that you've raised your skill
Yeah,
level,
you're valued
and
more. And that's the
yeah.
thing, an investment into your business. It's an investment into your artistry. It's an investment into your future. So anybody on there, don't look at training like, oh my God, it's so expensive. I mean, I know when I first started, I did everything was on my line of credit, and I was 75K in the hole with my business, taking all of these trainings and growing and everything. And, you know, it took me 5 years or so to get out of that. But without doing all of that training, I wouldn't have been able to charge the prices that I charge now. And now, you know, if somebody wants me to do their brows, it's $1,500. That's what I'm.
It would show more importantly, I think, than all of that too, is that they're popping up everywhere, right? And for every 100 people that are going to start microblading or doing permanent makeup today, maybe 20 of them will be here next year. And
Yeah.
maybe 10 of them will be there on year 3, because it's not as easy as it looks. It is a lot of pain and suffering on our end, right? Like, not on
Yeah.
the clients. Dealing with people, dealing with beauty standards, all of the things, right?
Perfect disorder,
So
all the diseases and disorders,
right, yeah, all of that.
pH,
But
all of that.
out of that 100, right? Like, let's say 10 are going to last. Let's say 10% are going to make it, and they're going to be great artists, right? Those 10 artists that are brand new, guess what? They're going to knock you off your little fucking statue, your little pedestal that you're on. So if I'm in New York City, there's a million people and there's a million technicians, so we don't see each other, right? But even when you're in a tiny little town, that 10% of artists, they are going to come out of the woodwork like bats out of hell. They're going to be amazing. They're going to do gorgeous work, and they are going to knock you off that pedestal that you're sitting on. And so the only way that you are going to survive
Right.
in this industry is to make sure that you know the new techniques, that you're using the new BI-blades, right? What's different? What makes me different than the girl around the corner? Oh, well, I've got new
I'm
technology,
an
right?
exclusive artist that has
Right.
been used.
Right. And I have new technology that she does not have, or I have new training that she doesn't have, or I have new pigments that she doesn't have. I am on the cutting edge. And the only way to stay on your pedestal is, there's 2 ways to stay on your pedestal, in my opinion. Number one, make sure that you're always at the top of your game with your trainings and your devices and everything else, and save a little space on that pedestal, because you don't get to be there all by yourself. So scooch over and let someone else up there with you,
Yeah.
right? but also make sure that you're working hard to stay there, because that next kid, that next 20-year-old that just learned how to do this yesterday, they are going to blow
They
you
are
out of the water.
they are so talented, these newbies. Oh my gosh. They are learning from Brian, Brian Browse, Brian Ho, and they are learning all of the new nano and all of the stuff that never was around when we were ever started. So it's all new, and I don't do machine work.
But they
So
also have access to so much training. I didn't have that. You had to fly to Hawaii to get training. There was no training like this back then. Nobody was doing that. We had to beg people to teach us stuff.
What is that? Back in the day, there was no sharing anything. You're lucky if you can get anything from anybody. But now, Mary was so good with that. Mary Richardson, I think she really started to cultivate that whole sharing culture, because she's just so informative and sharing with the industry. I know that I definitely got on that bandwagon from her, being able to share. And so I've always kept an open door policy. If somebody needs something, they can message me, and I do my best to help them. And if I feel I can't, then I'll let them know that too. So yeah, I think it's important that we just keep sharing, keep innovating, keep growing, and helping people along the way as we continue to grow in this incredible industry. So for me, it's been a big shift going into product. So, you're definitely going to see, I don't know how functional my hand's going to be from all of this. It's been a real detriment, because I'm not able to press, and I've lost my strength at this section of my hand.
That's shitty.
So it's been challenging. So we'll see what's going to happen in the future. If I see the plastic surgeon at the end of the month, to be able to see whether this is am I going to get better? Is surgery going to happen? Once I know, I'll have a better idea where it's all going. But, at this point, I'm just focusing on this beautiful little baby to help.
Which I think it's important to mention that too. So many years ago when I was just tattooing, I was working 14-hour days. I mean, I was just banging them out, tattooing all day. And what happened was I damaged something in here. I forget what it's called. It's a person's name. So it's not carpal tunnel, but it's a person's name, something syndrome, right?
Yeah.
And what it is, it's something to do in the thumb. Yeah, like it's in here. So what they wanted me to do was they wanted me in a cast with my thumb out like this, and they wanted me in a cast for 4 months. And I was like, go fuck yourself, because I have to work. Right. And they were like, well, the only way you're going to get better is if it's immobilized. And I was like, well, I need a soft cast, because I have to be able to take it on and off so I could work. And so they were like, if you do that, it's going to take you a year to get better. And I was like, well, then it takes me a year. I have to work. So I had a cast that I would wear at night that would keep my hand like this. Mm-hmm. And in between clients, I would schedule 20 minutes in between all of my clients so that I could ice it and massage it and stretch it. And that was the only way I could get through things. So just to bring us back to these little guys, if you are a machine user, right? Like I said, I like to have the manual tools on the side. If you're a machine user and you're developing carpal tunnel or whatever this was that I developed, or you've hurt your hand, or you had surgery, or you slipped and fell in the ice and you may not have the dexterity in your fingers to hold the machine steady the way that you were doing before. And so to be able to have the slower, put it right where you want it to be, and then push it in kind of control out of a manual tool, I think is a fabulous little tool to keep in the toolbox, right? Because like I said, I have herniated discs in my neck, and every once in a while I lose dexterity in my hands a little bit, and it scares the shit out of me, and it's terrifying. So if I was working on an eyeliner or something that I really needed precision for, and I didn't feel comfortable with my machine, I am going to pull out a manual device. And so I feel like people that are watching this, they're like, meh, I don't really use manual things. Like, you might want to have a couple just in case.
Like having a gun, you've got your nail gun, and you do all the big, but then you've got this big bulky thing, and it can't reach all those other small areas. So you have to get out your hammer and your nail.
Yeah.
So it's the same type of thing. So I'm excited, and this is just the beginning. I plan to make.
I'm excited for you. It's exciting to release your baby into the world.
Right? it is, and it's scary and it's exciting, and you know, all those things that come with it. It's like, are people going to like it? Are they not going to like it? But so far the feedback has been really good. I've had only one artist that says that she wouldn't work with it because she doesn't do a lot of manual and she likes her needles, and that's fine. And you're going to
If you
find,
don't like it, then it's not for you,
yeah, but
right?
all of them are like, wow, this is amazing. Oh my God, I can't believe how smooth it is. I can't believe how fast it penetrates. I can't believe, you know, how sharp it is. I can't believe how much pigment I'm getting in. This is what I'm hearing. So that's exciting. Well, thank you so much, Angela, for taking time from your day to share with us. And for people that want to follow her, please follow her on, she's PMU by Angela on Instagram.
I am PMU by Angela on all socials, and the website is teachmepmu.com. There is a coupon code. It's Angela10, and that will get you 10% off of any PermaBlend products and free shipping over $250 in the continental US. So if you need it.
So that'll be available on Amazon.
Yeah, the book is available there, and there are 3 free online courses right now that are over there, and the other 3 are on their way out. And as soon as they are out, I will send you your vouchers, and you can reward some of your people.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for your time. And anybody out there that has any questions for me or Angela about anything in the industry, whether it's SPCP, the blades, training, knowledge, you know, you name it, we are vaults of information, and we are here to support. We are CPCP trainers, and it is our job and our mission to support the industry. So
100%.
yeah, thank you for taking your time, my love.
Love it.
And look forward to your book and more from you down the road.
All right.
Take care, honey.
Enjoy your Monday.
Bye for now.
Bye.